would like to tell you that we were playing a discussion which was called "To Kill a Dragon," which was about, let's say, freedom and personal freedom and the situation which can change or cannot change in Russia and Ukraine. But then I think through the project, through being here, we realized something else, and we would like to make a different discussion. And basically, this different discussion was proposed by Liza, and I think that there is sense if Liza holds this discussion. And this discussion is about impossibility of the dialogue, or possibility, like impossibility probably of the dialogue which we are facing. And I would like to give the word to Liza.
Well, thanks. So I'm Liza Babenko, one of the participants who was invited by Katia to Katarzyna for the information, and this morning me and my colleagues, Masha, Lesia, Alevtina, I forgot the name, Lusine, and Lyubov, who tried to discuss the notion of possibilities of dialogue between all of us, and in fact we shouldn't be afraid of this, so to say, possibility that we just discovered, explored, exist between us several days ago, like just yesterday. So we shouldn't be afraid, because this is just part of the reality we are living in. I mean, in Ukraine, or maybe in Russia, and I want probably to give a voice to each of the artists to express their thoughts about what do you think about this kind of impossibilities of speaking about the current political situation in Ukraine. Means Maidan, post-Maidan situation, a civil war, as I personally call it, on Donbass, etc., etc., and probably the role of art, or politically engaged, better to say art, in all of these issues. So just in order, I prefer to start from Masha, and then just...
I can explain it in some quick sentences why I think it is impossible. To talk about Maidan, I want to avoid this amateur approach. And to avoid amateur approach is to be prepared to talk about Maidan, as for me to be prepared to talk about Maidan. It is from November 2013 till right now, October 2014. Each day you have to read 4 hours the documentation about Maidan, as I do. And war right now. It is not only Ukrainian language, it is not only Russian language, it's French language, it is New York Times, Guardian, Figaro, it is also Spiegel, maybe some another editions, maybe some China approach, maybe some Vice News. So each day you have to spend 4 hours to know what is going on. And after this preparation process, we can talk. Who understand what and how someone perceive it, or how you interpret it. Before this preparation, I think it is amateur to talk about Facebook posts and something. Please.
I follow news, maybe less than 4 hours per day, but since November I follow news every day, but I'm still not able to talk about work, for example, because I understand that most important information or on top secret, for example, or it's unclear, as Alevtina mentioned yesterday night on the latest discussion, and she spent 4 witnesses of bombing village, and all of them said different version who was bombing them. So I also met film director who, in the summer, who recorded family of guys who was dead on this territory of Atto. And all members of family and closest friends had different version of death of their closest person. So I also have such experience. So if for them it's unclear, this position of forces is unclear. So for me, sitting in Kiev and searching in media, I'm not so responsible to make comments, for example, what our president does, for example. What is his decision, because I understand that half of information is unofficial. So I don't want to also make versions, make interpretations. If I speak about art reflection, I'm more free and I could see about my doubts, my thoughts, my approaches, and it also will not answer, but more about doubts, about situation.
Okay. Yeah, it's. I will actually come back to beginning. The title for our discussion. Please correct me if I'm wrong. To kill a dragon. What is actually happened in Ukraine?
No, the new title of our discussion is the possibility of the dialogue. So we just changed this.
But I really like to come back in order to explain why we switched. Yeah, can I?
Yeah,
it was right to say the title of the first version of this title. I will say the truth. Maybe will sound like pathetic or even dramatic. I must say, from my side, if somebody from you, I mean Liza, Masha, and Lesia, will feel that you have the same, I'm really ill. I mean, or mentally ill. I'm exhausted. I'm tired because in 1 month will be already a year as a long-term social protest started in Ukraine, and probably each human body has a limit, but probably we are very strong. We look nice. I mean, I hope healthy. Also, time to time I have sex, and sometimes I have this wish to this, and also have some hopes to do things, to plan, have envisioned many things. But really, I'm really mentally sick. And sure, sometimes you can have really very clear feelings what you can do next 2 days or tomorrow or let's say next 2 hours or not. And then when it was very close, and also we went here with Liza, Masha and Lesia, and also again read the first title of this discussion to talk here about what actually happened in Ukraine. And also we meet again and again since we leave our country and appear in the new context, different countries, again very serious questions with a light approach. Like for instance, I really don't want even to go deeply, but could be really very serious questions directed to us because, or to me, because I'm from Ukraine, which is asking pretty light manner and like Masha said, without, as I understand, on the level of the question or rhetoric used, that the person is not prepared. And in my vision is thinking that actually sometimes I'm thinking somebody is in front of me. Do I have a strategy? Do I have time in order really to find energy and also have a wish to really give proper answer on his question? Actually, it's possible. When I met my mom in mid of March, there was time when we say Maidan got this victory. And I met my mom in Donetsk. And it was absolutely clear that she and I are in a situation that a mother doesn't trust her child. Really just doesn't trust her child. And I have a drawing when I'm standing and there is really like pain over here. That never ever in my life I had a situation like this. The first things she asked me, or not asked me, she made this kind of remark. She said, "Ale, is it a good thing to throw stones in policemen?" And I immediately understood that probably she saw images from TV where she could see only stones which were thrown from protesters to policemen. But she just asked like this, is it a good thing that somebody throws stones to policemen? And I remember I looked at my mom in front of me, she grabbed me, she always like raised me, and I said, no, it's really bad thing, throw stones and policemen. But then we had 6 hours where I tried to explain to her what happened before the stones started to be thrown to policemen. But she was my mom, and we had 6 hours. At the moment, we have really nice relation. We really like. I never ever had such close relation as we have now. And the question is, in order she like to talk to me, she has to go to the cemetery of her city because she doesn't have any mobile signal in her house. Even I can't answer you why. This is also what we learned from November 2013, that it's stupid to complain on reality. The best things just remember the reality and accept how it is. And it's again, I'm just saying one more time that in one sense we are all trying to explain why this dialogue is not really possible.
Yeah, but you make just now example of how dialogue was effective, because mother was against Maidan, and now she's for Maidan, and she against separatists living in Donetsk area. So it's like 6 hours of painful.
and also being together as mother and child 40 years.
Because my boyfriend has mother in Russia. She left Lugansk, went to Russia 10 years ago, got Russian citizenship. And now they chat in Skype, and mother said, "You stupid guy. You are Banderas."
And it's such reference.
Yeah. She's really deep in this media zombification. And he just avoid to talk with her, just avoid. He tells her that to speak by phone is very expensive. And his youngest brother, some 2 years ago, went to Russian army for 1 year. And my boyfriend tells him, "Are you stupid? I am a lieutenant because military cathedral university, so I am a lieutenant, and if I will go to, so I will kill you or what?" In this fucking war. It's really, this is an example of one possibility of dialogue. Okay. But it's deeply about Russian TV.
Yeah, let's switch off to Lusine,
and
then just come to
по-русски буду говорить.
Я здесь. Ниже я могу оказаться.
Да, я послушала девочек, в отличие от них, они как бы могли непосредственно наблюдать картинку. Я наблюдала всю эту картинку через экран своего монитора.
To znaczy, słuchałam dziewczyn i w odróżnieniu od nich nie mogłam obserwować tego osobiście i obserwowałam to wszystko przez ekran swojego monitora.
В России объективную информацию получить невозможно. Нужно либо знать, где ее получать, либо как бы смотреть те ресурсы, которым можно доверять.
W Rosji uzyskanie obiektywnej informacji jest praktycznie niemożliwe, to znaczy trzeba albo jej szukać osobiście, albo szukać tych źródeł, którym przynajmniej w jakimś stopniu można zaufać.
Леся упомянула о том, что насколько пропаганда зомбирует людей, и это на самом деле так. Сейчас наблюдаем такую картину, что общество раскололось, и большая часть, она на самом деле искренне поддерживает Путина, и вот эта странная такая внутренний какой-то странный патриотизм, Крым наш, то есть, и я даже некоторое время назад придумала такую пословицу, не пословицу, что ли, перефразировала пословицу о том, что «скажи мне, чей Крым, и я скажу, кто ты». Ее подхватили очень много недавно.
She has the question there, whose Krym is that?
Крым is yours.
Чей Крым?
ваш. Крым ваш.
Także dużo w ostatnim czasie właśnie, tak jak Liza mówiła o tej zombifikacji przez media, bardzo dużo się zmieniło i to faktycznie niestety działa i bardzo dużo osób tak naprawdę bezwzględnie popiera politykę Putina i w pewnym momencie pojawił się nawet taki sposób na odróżnienie ludzi, to znaczy wystarczy zapytать, czy jest Krym i można powiedzieć, kim jest ten człowiek.
И на всех уровнях прослеживается это. И абсолютно ужасно, потому что, например, в России сейчас очень сильно, ну, есть такое слово, прессуют политических активистов, художников-активистов. И, например, в том регионе, из которого родом я, Краснодарский край, там сейчас активно занялись именно политическими активистами. И совсем недавно мои друзья хотели провести марш за федерализацию Кубани.
I niestety teraz również w tych realiach jest bardzo duży nacisk na aktywistów ze sfery kultury i sztuki, ale też również politycznych aktywistów. I między innymi z tego regionu, z którego pochodzi Lusine, czyli z krasnodarskiego kraju, też zaczęły się silne naciski na politycznych aktywistów politycznych, którzy chcieli przeprowadzić referendum dotyczące federalizacji Kubani.
Ребята решили пошутить таким образом, что раз Путину можно устраивать подобные провокации в Донецке, из Донецкой Народной Республики, в Луганске, то есть такие сеять там сепаратистские настроения, то они вполне могут себе позволить на Кубани сделать подобный марш и с требованиями отделиться от России и вступить в состав Украины.
I oni postanowili przeprowadzić taką akcję, ponieważ jeśli Putin może prowadzić podobne akcje w Doniecku, w Ługańsku, oni stwierdzili, że mogą przeprowadzić akcję dotyczącą separacji Kubani od Rosji.
В итоге, естественно, заявку на марш не приняли, но ребята все равно вышли в количестве 3 человек. То есть меня тогда не было, я была в Москве на выставке. И все 3 человека, которые вышли, они оказались в СИЗО на 15 суток. Далее одна из девушек, которая подавала заявку, она не вышла по истечении 15 суток, и сейчас ей грозит реальный уголовный срок длительностью до 7 лет, и она внесена без суда в список террористов и сепаратистов.
I zgłoszenie tego marszu tak naprawdę nie zostało przyjęte. Na cały ten marsz wyszły 3 osoby, Lusine nie wyszła, ponieważ była w tym czasie na wystawie w Moskwie. Wszystkie te osoby zostały zaaresztowane i zamknięte w areszcie na 15 dób, natomiast jedna z dziewczyn niestety nie wyszła do tego czasu. Została bez żadnego sądu wniesiona na listę terrorystów i teraz grozi jej więzienie na okres do 7 lat.
Это очень яркий пример.
И про список террористов.
Nie, ja сказал, что została wniesiona, то есть ее внесли в список террористов.
Я считаю, что это очень яркий пример, который показывает политику двойных стандартов, которую ведет мое государство.
I to jest bardzo wyrazisty przykład polityki takiej podwójnych standardów, którą prowadzi Rosja, czyli jej państwo.
И еще один, я очень коротко расскажу пример о том, как когда тема Крыма, тема присоединения, тема псевдопатриотизма, она повлияла на адекватных людей. Есть такая структура ОНК, общественная наблюдательная комиссия. Эти люди, они вправе заходить в любые тюрьмы и как бы разговаривать, как бы, ну, спрашивать о проблемах заключенных. Так вот, на днях члены ОНК посетили... Да-да-да.
Много информации.
Я могу повторить, если что.
Ja сейчас справлюсь, надеюсь. Jest jeszcze jeden przykład właśnie działania w tych realiach, czyli jest taka społeczna komisja obserwacyjna, która ma prawo wchodzić właściwie do wszystkich więzień i prowadzić tam właśnie obserwacje.
И как раз-таки к тем активистам, о которых я сказала, которые задержали за федерализацию, к ним на днях пришли эти люди.
I do tych właśnie osób zatrzymanych za ten marsz w ostatnich dniach przyszli ci właśnie ludzie z tej komisji.
И буквально вчера появился пост-отчет на Фейсбуке этих людей о посещении сепаратистов-террористов, как их называют.
I praktycznie właśnie wczoraj pojawił się post na Facebooku dotyczący właśnie tych odwiedzin u tych tak zwanych separatystów.
Так вот, эти члены ОНК, они просто, наплевав на этику, наплевав на то, что есть определенный кодекс и устав членов ОНК, они не могут ни пренебрежительно, ни как-то иначе то, ну, что могло бы повлиять на ситуацию этих людей. Они написали очень пренебрежительный пост, высокомерный, унизительный по отношению к этим людям. И как бы свою точку зрения описали, как бы поддерживали тем, что они за аннексию Крыма.
I ci ludzie tak naprawdę, złamawszy wszystkie zasady, które ich obowiązują, przez wszelkie regulaminy, które obowiązują te właśnie komisje, w tym poście opisali całą sytuację w sposób bardzo krytyczny, bardzo negatywny, wręcz obrażający te zatrzymane osoby, kończąc właściwie taką konkluzją, że oni podtrzymują aneksję Krymu.
Ну и закончу свой рассказ тем, что двое из 3 вышедших на площадь нашли политическое убежище на Украине.
I chciałbym zakończyć swoją wypowiedź tym, że 2 z tych 3 osób, ponieważ ta trzecia osoba nie wyszła, uzyskały azyl polityczny na Ukrainie.
Okay, thanks, Lusine. Just Lyubov.
Yeah, I'm agree about the lack of information, like I mean the real information and true information, which is quite difficult to find. And I'm originally from Kaliningrad, but I'm living now in Amsterdam, so it's even more difficult, let's say.
European Union.
Yeah, European Union. But the thing is, like after the Crimea, it was really the society is split. It's true, and as I'm from Enclave. It was Königsberg, it was Germany, so it's become a lot of jokes that's okay, and then Germany will come and say that Königsberg is belong to Germany. It's a Russian territory. And in our region we have a lot of this special direction in police which is against extremism.
Yeah,
extremism. Yeah. So it's like really strict. So any thought and all those kind of jokes was straight away removed and it's not pop up anywhere afterwards. And so I think from position to talk about Russia and Ukraine, it's so complicated and about the dialogue, and I see a lot of situations, as we talked before today, that friends and families split and don't talk with each other because of that, which I found horrible. Like friends, yes, and I think everybody have a relatives, like inside and outside, let's say. So I think it's important to keep this relationship. Like I mean, if you was 10 years friends, so it was something, and. For me, I think this is kind of important, and this is only I can talk about, because I don't know anything else. I just can talk about as a human with another human being, and I don't know the topic so well to operate some facts.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's why I think, this is my opinion.
It's like a truthful position to figure out that, probably I don't know anything.
Yeah.
I can judge.
Yeah, because I wasn't there and I don't have a chance to. I mean, I talked with some friends, but it's only like my friend told me, and I heard. It's like this is what I have, because I wasn't there, so I don't see it with my eyes. I mean, I trust my friends, but still, it's something which I get from some.
Well, basically, let me just summarize a bit what you've just said. Basically, you're talking about media. And yesterday it occurred that it was a pretty interesting discussion about media, how it works in Russia as well as in Ukraine and other countries. And what I understood is here in Krolikarnia, some of us were absent, but still it's never mind. What I've noticed is that there is a huge question: how should I get the, so to say, true information about Maidan, post-Maidan, leftist, rightist, war on Donbass, and other issues. How should I get from where? And many Russian artists, as well as Polish and European Union artists, my friend, they just wrote me and asked in a historical manner, where should I get this kind of information in order not to be mistold? Of course, it's not the Russian resources. But what I now wanted to emphasize is that, we can talk endlessly about the Russian, so to say, propaganda, Kremlin politics, and their external colonized manner, how they just behave with us as with independent state. But still, I'm more interested to talk about ourselves, to emphasize our Ukrainian internal political problems and contradictions. And as for me, this is much more useful rather than judge all the same our external enemies, which of course exist, and I spent the whole lecture yesterday explaining why the post-colonial situation of Ukraine, because of this war invasion, the constant Russian invasion just led to this civil war situation in Ukraine. But still, we have to concentrate to focus on our own internal problems, which is probably like we can discuss even now if we want and if we can. And the second issue I wanted to emphasize is that now we have a kind of key points for our discussion, which just Alevtina raised up. The first issue is the notion of sickness, of being ill, mentally as well as physically. And I completely agree with this kind of approach, because when I just arrived to Poland and speak with Katia, with our curator, I noticed immediately that this mood, this state exists. When I speak even with myself, with Lesia, with Alevtina, with other Ukrainian participants, we are all metaphorically, of course, I use it very carefully, but still, we are all ill. And then I just realized that this kind of conversation, concerning impossibilities of dialogue is extremely important, because really, in fact, it's impossible to talk about pain, to talk about our kind of post-Maidan trauma, our victims, our understanding of freedom, patriotism, nationalism, uprising of extremism, etc. It's still full of pain, and probably, we cannot criticize ourselves now in this war situation. But still, this is a kind of my approach to find our own problems and to try to discuss it. And probably you can agree or disagree with these notions, like key notions for the discussion: sickness, freedom, patriotism, your attitudes toward these notions, and your attitudes towards our Ukrainian problems, political problems, and probably our problems.
We have a situation where a person now who doesn't understand English, we have to change our language.
Okay, let's try.
Can you translate?
Yeah, sure. Maybe you should ask her to come closer to hear it. Czy może Pani dołączyć do nas troszeczkę bliżej, bo będzie łatwiej słyszeć. Naprawdę, zapraszamy.
Да, и небольшое замечание тогда. Давайте, я самой это проблема, вчера мы не справились. Давайте будем, если говорить, то стараться прерваться, чтобы переводчик успел, потому что, да, мы должны, потому что...
А ему Адам будет переводить на английский.
Так, а может мы тогда продолжим на английском,
Нет, так проще будет. Адам справится. Он знает русский настолько хорошо, что сможет русского на английский, чтобы говорить, использовать.
Просто на русский все.
Вообще-то нет.
Я не знаю.
Катя, мы уже начали на английском, может
Продолжим на английском.
Пусть тогда переводим
Английском.
Так, с английского, может, тогда. С английского, может.
Ну давай, может быть, Диму посадим.
Есть люди, которые не разумеют.
Катюша, может, Диму посадим к английскому?
Да, может быть.
Ну да. Ну потому что все уже как-то мне тоже неловко. Я по-английски.
Не, по-русски, на польский перевод. Те, кто русский,
Понимают русский, понимают польский. Можно. Английский здесь не нужен уже.
А с русского
А?
Ну хорошо.
Дима, если может, да.
Хорошо, то мне тогда украинский на какой переводить?
На польский. Там много всего.
А это не россияне.
Тогда я не пойму, как по-русски.
Почему Паня может английскую переводить? Почему нельзя с английского переводить, если на английский с польского? Украинский вы не поймете.
Давайте мы говорим все по-английски и просто переводим на польский.
Ну, я согласна с тобой. Я за то, чтобы с английского переводили на
Все,
польский.
давайте с английского на польский.
Потому что мне неудобно тоже переключать. Мы уже начали.
То может я тогда пересяду просто туда, чтобы сразу по ходу
Ну и что нам
переводить?
говорить тоже?
Опасно.
Не опасно, но
Очень больше опасно.
Вчера мы говорили, не знаю, на русском, сегодня. Завтра все это. Okay, so probably Dima should just translate a bit from my previous speech in order to give our guest like the main course of the discussion. Или она уже?
Я просто сказал, что я переведу.
So we started kind of to continue the discussion about the key points I've just mentioned and about your attitude towards our own Maidan, post-Maidan war problems, terror problems in Ukraine. Masha, Lesia,
Okay.
and
For me, it was one case of impossibility with dialogue with Russian activists and Russian artists, because I don't have moral insight, possibility to ask you to talk, to ask Russian activists, Russian artists, Russian curators, Russian intelligentsia to talk loudly about Ukraine in Russian. I understand your laws, I understand their possibility, their risk of get to prison. I understand the aspects of your life in Russia, and I can't demand from you to go to the protests in Russia, to make actions, because I don't need that you will be in a prison for 7 years. I will not feel some moral or emotional support from this. Satisfaction. It is not the case of satisfaction to understand that the person that went to the meeting will obtain 7 years, or he will be beaten, or he will be morally or physically or psychologically attacked, or will have tension, or even will be fired from the work when he will, in his corporation, talk loudly about Ukraine. And this is also a possibility for me, because I don't need it.
if you just don't want to express, it's absolutely express, you can express it too, or any person, you know,
just like
when you
kind
prefer
of
to be
nice
silent, it's also a decision.
Yesterday this discussion about media, I had a question. The discussion they partly answer, but discussion they were focused on internet mostly, and asked who looks the TV today? Nobody, but in Russia, I think this division goes between people who look TV and who doesn't. Mostly. I understand that some internet media also make a lot of fakes, but if you TV, it's something even more strong. You just eat pills, doping every day. And in Ukraine, we split people like Russians who watch TV and who doesn't. And I'm really surprised that now in 2014, in the world where all information circulates openly, maybe except China, I don't know, and North Korea, person cannot get information. I call it informational, how to translate it? Чисто плотность потребления информации. It's like
the here of using the
of using information. Because if some issue is very painful for me, I will dig very deeply to find the truth. If it's about my neighbors and war with country which is neighbor, I cannot eat everything I have from television. I will investigate, I will compare. It's my personal approach to myself, to what I have around, to my surroundings. And I'm surprised how people are really relaxed, and even maybe they're so lazy to eat first what they got first channel, what they switch on, they eat, and they have they satisfied with this. And it's now information of this zombification even more stronger than in Soviet Union, when it was really iron curtain. It was
can't know. You can't know how you can judge. It was more.
No, but I mean, the possibilities are now we have much more possibilities. Sorry, I remember when I was in 90s, like teenager and fan of some music, Western music. I cannot find it except like big book market in Kyiv with some Polish magazines. They didn't have internet and information even in the 90s, middle 90s. And now you can just, I don't know,
I want
to comment on that.
I mean, for me, it's how it's like really bigger percent in Russia really satisfied with this.
No, but that's easy. It's like I was talking to my mom, for instance, and I was because she on one hand she listens to me, on the other hand she doesn't really hear me, and she's just quite political. But then on the other hand, I ask her, why don't you dig deeper? Why don't you investigate? Why aren't you, why? And she's like, Katia, I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I spend 1.5 hours going to work. I start working at 9. I work till 6. I spend 1.5 hours going back from work. Do you think I want to investigate in the evening? Or do you think when I need to take care of the grandparents and then I need to clean apartment, do you think I also spend my weekend in investigating what's going on? Like,
yeah, that's pretty good to know, by the way.
But still, it's really painful to hear this, because in Donetsk,
but why
people
they
can't sleep, because they can't get asleep. There are bombing there.
Sorry,
no,
but why such person is...
They can't even imagine this hell, which is described as
why they
hell.
charge? Why they charge that in Ukraine a lot of private sector guys?
But
why they charge?
No, she doesn't judge. She just
not your mother, but why
she doesn't have
such
time
people?
to investigate politics, and then.
But why they think that we hear all fascists, for example?
They just don't think.
But not your mother, but others. If Masha says that we need 4 hours per day from November, every day searching the news to understand what's going on. If you not do this, how you could have opinion?
Of course, because you hear.
Say pretty much.
If you hear, like, let's say, if you watch TV in the morning and in the evening, and let's say within 5 minutes, 20 times you hear Banderovets, fascists, and you see the footage, because there is the footage. I saw TV in my grandparents' apartment just like 2 months ago, and if you see this footage, you're like, oh my god.
Yeah, this footage is a part of collages that journalists from Russian procurement channels are made in a way that, Ukrainian is full of, so to say, Banderas, fascist, radical, Bolsheviks. I mean, that's what I want to emphasize. The rhetoric of Putin, from Putin's journalists is full of this notion, which is coming from Russian Caucasus conflicts. And the main notion is Bolshevik. So this is kind of my completely disagreement position, because this is not about because what Russia is talking about our nationalistic and probably fascistic problem is firstly super exaggerated, and the second, they do not have any right to talk about it from their imperialistic position. But we can judge, we can observe how much we have this pro-Nazi people or not. So it should come from our side, but not from the side of Russian media that are, and it's a bit very influenced.
The thing is that it's a new law is coming that from 1st of January 2015 is they want to close Facebook, Twitter and Google in Russia. It's the first. And the second one, all bloggers which have really public blog, yes.
Is that not
No, they want to do it later, but then they move it the deadline to the January.
And the second one, that it was also new law for the media that if you have a blog and your blog is visited more than 1,000 people, you as a media. So if you write something wrong, they shut up not just your blog, they shut up completely like journal. So you have a journal and you write about butterflies, it's also shut down.
Okay.
So then I'm talking about the like information thing that is like for people who don't watch TV. That is really blocking, and then I can read some news because I'm out of Russian, but then I go Russian, they didn't open. I need to use a special, I don't know how it's called, thing to open that website to read the article. It's really blocked in all ways.
Sorry,
Okay, before.
CNN, which I don't think it's also very
No, but I think CNN you can watch it.
Ukrainian Pravda.
I don't know, I think like with the servers with like how to DPA or like I'm not technical. With them you can watch everything. But
Okay, let's discuss it after because we still have to give words to Alevtina and Lusine. And before I wanted to focus on the issue that we shouldn't forget talking about media and talking about informative war. Now that getting information within Ukraine, within our own web resources, is also a super ideological thing. And we shouldn't be like super idealistic towards our own media work and our own TV channels, newspapers and magazines and web channels. Because all of our journalists, I mean, in average, they occupy very precise position. I mean, I am for ATO, I am against ATO, and they work in this kind of position when there is no truth at all. And this word, especially now here, should be first of all problematized, because speaking like in a way that if I read, for instance, even Hromadski TV, I get the truth. It's also super like I think it's not the right approach to talk about. So we also have this media war, these ideological positions, who is liberal, who is right liberal, who is leftist, etc. And we shouldn't just forget about it. How media works through all over the world, not just in Russia or in Poland. And in Poland, Katia just asked me to probably to include Poland in our discussion. I mean, Polish magazines, Polish media, Polish informative. Yeah, they're also full of this kind of stuff.
It was a nice discussion yesterday about this, and that's why I mentioned why 4 hours, because you have to each time to compare the information, each information, how it was provided in each resource.
And just a second before Alevtina and Lusine. So what I mean is that each position, as I said, is ideological position, and it's not just empty or just neutral. And I feel a lot of nationalistic and a kind of violent moods here or in Ukraine as well. It shouldn't be like understood as I blame somebody, but as a researcher, as a cultural, of course I notice it. I noticed that there is no kind of truth information, especially in Ukraine, which is like the subject of my research. So shouldn't forget about it. And Alevtina, if you have something to add.
Actually, what I like to say, for me, became very visible. I can imagine that probably Russian mentality is pretty close to Ukrainian mentality. I'm going to talk about that in Ukraine, also just saying about your mentality, like it might be also like we have in Ukraine. Through all my childhood, my families of my neighbors, we never had really nice culture to how to go through conflicts. For instance, my husband family is actually Warsaw because they didn't have conflicts. They didn't talk. And actually we are together like 20 years, really like, no, didn't. So his mom always was proud that they never allowed to argue in front of children. And his and her child, my husband, so he just thought this is good thing. Don't go through conflicts. My family, my father is Georgian. And my mom, she's Ukrainian. She was absolutely. It's in the manifesto catalog. We can discuss about this later. I don't have the time for that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I must say that in certain point, going through Maidan already in November, in December, for instance, if to talk about a big idea, resource, it's actually a civil organization, then immediately understood that it's very important to find many articles, practices, workshops, how to go through conflicts, because conflicts already started. Somebody supported Maidan, somebody didn't support Maidan, and also I also tried to do something in my village. We invited a psychologist person, and so she started to work with us for free. We did many kind of handy practices. We tried. I think I'm just understood immediately that this thing, media, just also made this really huge gap. But before this gap, we didn't have this culture. How you can talk, how you should ask questions, how to make you emotional down, many things. It's like we are both, I must say, Ukrainian and Russian, post-totalitarian society. And then we got this fucking situation, which is absolutely like... And also another thing, if to talk about Western societies, maybe, I'm just guessing, I think that I'm like 40 years old, and when we got this situation like war in the center of our country and capital, I didn't know how to behave. I didn't know, should I serve a nicely table as I always did, what I should do, I just was absolutely unprepared, and then I just started to remember that all books which were written, also read by me about Second War, we had many books. They were nothing about how human should react. It was so much about Russian did this, Red Army did this, we are in Berlin, this day, they did this, and it was nothing about the feelings. And it's very interesting that my grandma, she was one of the volunteers. She was signed up in the Red Army when she was 20, and she went through this hell, I would say. And she never talked to me about war. But when she got this, when you got paralyzed, and then your memory comes up. And then it's very slow, memory comes up, not recent memory, but really past. And at that time, she started to talk to me about war. Like she started to talk how she had problem with skin, when she got this, I don't know, как они имели вши все. Also, she just told me a story that I don't know how it happened. It was really difficult to get details. That I don't know why there was a little girl in her, I don't know, department or sport. I don't know. The girl, she was like 12 years old. I don't know how it's possible that she was there. And the lieutenant, she raped her, this girl. Yeah, and then the whole issue that my grandma, who was recovering after to be paralyzed, her memory came up. She started to talk about really very humanistic expressions about war. And also just started to think about Lesia's project when she also tried to describe for her grandfather a memory recollection about Second War. And it's interesting that in Ukraine, before the things started, really wild, there were already like some saying which we tried to, I don't know how, it may be just so coincidence. But so, coming to my point at the moment that we don't have this culture to go through conflicts. And maybe, if for instance, I also think, like, Lusine, I'm really I have this thing when you told this story, but to my opinion, maybe I'm very cynical, maybe I'm so rude to say I don't think this type of things you need. You need to find people who can help you to go through conflicts, who know law in Ukraine, to maybe go there, maybe be very clever, be not it's like go through instincts to why. It's interesting when, for instance, we had this January 20, when people started to throw stones and punishments, and next day people got messages on their telephones. Maybe somebody knows about this. It was written like you are registered and in the area of public disturbance clashes or something like this. It's like our police used opportunity to get somehow to the data of mobile companies, and they sent the SMS to everybody who were in this circle on Grushevskova. So, and the funny thing is that immediately 4 articles appeared in a few newspapers, even I produced one. How to protect yourself. How to make, for instance, your make you invisible, to uncharge your mobile, to read batteries. Also, how to send SMS which will be decoded, and how to find a provider where you can find open account that it will be not so possible to how to say it? Absolutely. So
it was during the Grushevskova attack.
It was. Yeah, exactly. And actually, the 4 texts, Volодарsky did this text, I did for Big Idea and on Ukrainian Pravda, and I just collected 4. And it's so much about that how in Ukraine was really quick reaction of resistance, what to do. And actually, I translated my own text, which I found actually on the Dutch resources. Yeah, it was really open that only just, it was written that I had to use references to this site. I can say actually it's in Russian. I translated into Russian because for me it's more difficult to translate into Ukrainian. No one cared which language because it was really like a case to help to activists who were in a certain situation.
Okay, thanks. Now I've got an idea that probably for Polish people we have to provide a collect of our own. Choose which magazine we advise to read about Ukrainian situation, and I invite you to provide. I invite Ukrainian probably artists to provide a kind of your list of magazines or web resources that you are reading constantly and that you can advise for foreigners to read about Ukraine. But of course, it should be kind of translated into English or something. If not, just not. For instance, I can advise Timothy Snyder articles, and it's very well translated into English. It's about his American Yale-based researcher, and he's often in Ukraine. He investigates the situation in a very good way, and in Guardian and other resources you can easily take his Timothy Snyder. Timothy Snyder, yeah.
But he writes in English.
Yeah, he writes in English.
And he's professor.
He's professor at Yale University in USA. Of course he writes in English, yeah, but he writes about Ukraine situation, and this is a kind of political economy, historical analysis of what's going on. It's not just a tabloid way of approach when you just give your... Of course he gives a kind of his subjective attitude toward this historical perspective or war conflicts, the reason, the result, etc. But this is just my subjective advice as a researcher to you to pay attention to his article. The second, hi Oля. This is our another participant, Ola Zhitlina, and I'm glad she joined us.
We invite you.
Yeah, we invite you in this circle. So yeah, we are talking just about the magazines, Ukrainian or international one resources that we can advise for all of you, I mean for Russians, for Polish people to read about Ukraine. And I just mentioned Timothy Snyder articles, probably you know about him. Also I recommend, but it's also just mine, I recommend the edition where I'm working for. This is a Ukrainian-based edition, Commons Community through double M. something whom you trust?
Your
personal just.
I like a professional artistic article by Alexei Radinsky on Influx. So it is issue from September and June. It's 2 articles, Maidan and Beyond, part 1, and Maidan and Beyond, part 2. It is a very nice article where Alexei, he made big architectural research. What is in Maidan in architectural space of Kiev, what it was which monuments were there before revolution, before the fall of USSR, then after what public demonstration were there. It is in English and I think it will be nice. It is nice material to be.
Sorry, the author is?
Alexei Radinsky. And it is www.e. Influx, yes, and also our friends civic architect, right? So it is Influx. These issues are in archive because it is archived from August and June 2014. Influx.com. So this is nice article, English, and it has artistic approach, professional artistic approach that I can share. Alexei? Yes, he works in Central.
So sniper articles you can just put on Google. About commons. Well, of course, this is a kind of academical magazine issue which is close to my university, Kiev Academy. And this is the stuff of leftist intellectuals who just observe Maidan and post-Maidan political, economic, and historical situation. And we have all the editions translated into English, and there is a free access to it in internet. Just also like with Snyder, with Influx, and with Rosja, just put on Google Commons Commentators. You're going to find there my articles, you can find there articles of the main editor, Volodya Ichenko, of also probably Rosja and other main Maidan activists, etc. etc. So, Lesia, Alevtina?
To speak about English text, yes, and I think best is Timothy Schneider, as Liza mentioned, because he investigates Ukraine not like last moment. It's his specific.
But if you know some locals, you can also.
Locals
whom you trust.
I compare. For example, when war just starts, this conflict in the east, all information was very late. Our main edition, news edition, is Ukrainian Pravda. But I compare some news on Facebook about some really happens. And then I compare that in Ukrainian Pravda it appears few hours later. So I'm sooner. And then I found, in spring I found web resource InfoResist.com, but it's only in Russian, I think. It's from Eastern area, local, I don't know, local people, some journalists, some I think activists. They were witnesses of what was going on, and it was very, very soon very quickly update information. If some battle starts, they just make news. Battle starts, we will update every 5 minutes, and they update not with images, just with text they type. And they type it. I follow them from very beginning of their appearance, and then I realized that they have a lot of followers already. Now, then maybe it's website, and I follow them on Facebook, and sometimes check maybe I lost something on their website. Now they're not so mobile, maybe because battles became more dangerous and they can just speak about it directly. Cannot, yes. So, and more analytics appears. But this analytic, I check the analytic. I don't trust them like 100%. Also, I like CensorNet. because editor is very active person, he's volunteer and he quite good analytic. Censor.net and Khvila.org, Khvila.org, but Censor.net is in Russian, and I think it's not bad. And sometimes now they often make interview with soldiers who, for example, escaped from Ilovaisk. I collected such stories. I collected editor of, I think, Censor.net. He started collect story from shooting on Maidan, and he was going to write a book. And I was very interested in this because 18th of February, when it was trying to destroy Maidan, it was a lot of unclear moments for me and for all of us about where part of Warsaw Maidan were disappeared. So it's really like a detective. And to ask witnesses is very important because what happened, who knows, who knew about what will happen and so on. So such, maybe I need to write.
I also can. Have you finished? No,
yeah, I will write down maybe.
It's actually a good idea to make a list.
Just what you or a question. Okay, and also I was very inspired by the short animation on Le Monde. It's French edition. It's called 5 Minutes: The Prehistory of the Conflict. It is prehistory of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. It's animation, graphic in French, but it's mostly statistics from the prehistory and also with a deep economic involvement, with a scheme of data provosts, with their different situation of the gas war of 2012, of the quantity of all information that are made in this style of French journalism. So this is very nice.
English subtitles?
It's Le Monde, and it is 5 minutes about the conflict, prehistory of the conflict.
But in Le Monde,
It is
prehistory of the conflict.
Yeah. Le Monde.fr.
I actually can add something from culture sector. For instance, Lesia took part in the initiative, which was very interesting, and for somebody of you maybe will be very important to read on. When we got 3,000 injured people after 20th of February, 3,000. So we had a platform which is for contemporary art. It's called the Commentators platform. They before used to do sculpture projects, they said sculptures in parks. But anyway, so they pawn us, me personally, you don't want to go to hospitals to meet those people. And I said, what we are going to do then? And anyway, the ideas were some ideas, doesn't matter. We just came there and we appeared as people who could say them, hello. And they said, oh, who you are? We are saying, we are artists. And of course, those people, they were not art collectors, they didn't know anything about art. Of course, they were saying, oh, can you draw my portrait to an artist? And then the conceptual artist, me personally, and then like, okay, like a few years or 10 years ago, I may draw a portrait, okay, I will do it. And of course, you couldn't say no, this was something else. But anyway, after the first time we met those people, they started to tell a story. And then it turned out in a really interesting project which started to be called Postcard from Maidan.
Oh, something Warsaw.
Yeah. Yes, it was the project. And actually the idea was that we came to a person saying hello, said, oh, you're an artist, first the portrait if person wanted, and then the story. And then we started to draw the stories. For instance, I remember that my drawing was like the guy saying, I was going in the street and then suddenly sniper shoot started and 8 people around me, they calmed down, and I was just like drawing this, and the girls, mostly the girls with us, or sometimes, no, I was just these girls. No, it was like 30 artists took part in this initiative. So it was like 2 things, there were images, which were used for postcards, and there were stories, which were then became text. put on the website also exist. It's called a postcard from Maidan, and some of them already translated into English, and most of them they're in Russian, and
Some of them translated to Polish because of the exhibition.
yeah, and also, so I'm just, it's also kind of alternative journalistic, which can help.
It's not journalistic, I'm not journalistic.
It's the kind of documentation of the events of our being on Maidan, or
You can't say this word alternative journalistic.
It's not volunteer, it's not art, it's not journalistic. I don't know how to
Okay,
say
okay,
Just
just
check
check
this
this
documentation kind of visual, visual documentation.
yes, it's really it's not about media, it's about something particular.
Anyway, so just check yourself.
Check
Okay,
yourself.
so this is I will write how it's written, and also you can go to Big Idea home, and Big Idea sometimes to time they put some text about practices. And this is also crowdfunding platform where, for instance, where many initiatives also related to Maidan. For instance, first days they collected 1 million hryvnias. It was called Xawery Maidan. Xawery Maidan, one Maidan. О, нет, no, make it one. Дима, как перевести Xawery Maidan?
Warmark Maidan.
Warmark, yes. So also you can check this resource, which is run by a civil organization, and they also very neat to political issues, but they write about this
Yeah, this is a resource
perspective.
for co-production artistic initiatives as well. So, yeah, Big Idea is our
Yeah, this
what I wanted to propose you now is probably to talk about, to talk with our audience and to get questions and to provide answers to them. If our guests, for instance, from Italy, has a question, please put it on. If not,
I just wanted to ask why do you think why do you think that the center network resist or the listed websites are reliable ones?
reliable.
Yeah.
I compare. I don't trust to one edition completely. We don't have, we don't have such a lot of falsified news as in Russia, but we have checked news sometimes. I mean, some journalists are so busy to edit some news on a website, so they didn't check it if it's true. And sometimes one professional's angry to another in Facebook. For example, editor of one newspaper of this, for example, Censornet, he lied on Espresso TV that guys really published that battalion was shot, all of them, like 30 corpses, and they edited it before checked. And all families now became crazy because their son already died. But it was not fact-checked.
Not fact-checked.
Confirmed. It wasn't confirmed. It just, unclear situation. Sometimes such things happen, like panic leads people to edit some. On this discussion also we mentioned yesterday we mentioned
very nice discussion about media with media editors from Poland. We talked about also their international agency, Raters, and their experience. They're also the Raters. Yesterday, editors, they advise us Raters, the international agencies, to use their Raters.
Reuters. We forgot about Y School. It's not the best edition, but firstly, it's very entertaining, and secondly, that's pretty much subjective. But I work for them as a live producer, and I just observed how they make their views, how editors
Yeah,
work,
voices
and
are nice because they
It's
really
interesting.
not afraid to go deep inside the wall.
For me, the question of Odessa was very deep, and I watch and rewatch United Nations Safe Council meetings.
Safe Council.
Служба безопасности ООН. Security Department. Служба безопасности ООН.
Security Department of
So they have during from 29th of 28th of February, there are 15 meetings for like 2-3 hours where there are representatives of different countries discuss the question of Ukraine. It is special, there's website of United Nations. There are also representatives from Russia, for sure. So, and then there is possibility of different languages.
And maybe some questions from the audience because we
I spent all the summer very frustrated and committed, trying to have some information because on the official, like normal media, mainstream media, it's really the Ukrainian war war. But then the war was summer. There are no journalists on the battlefield because it's too dangerous probably.
They were on vacation.
So the information was, we had no information almost. Just when the Dutch airplane was shot down, then was visibility and focus on it. So actually I'm very curious to see all this.
Yeah, this is why
Maybe we will make a list with
yeah, this is why we this is why
But also I want to ask you.
we can all write our emails and then we
and the name of these editions, our audience, our
just maybe who are interested in the list,
friends, colleagues.
please put your email address and then Katia
yeah.
I write it here.
send back
the list media.
Of course it's subjective.
Yeah, no, but there's several voices.
We emphasize that this is subjective choice, but this is probably the only one thing we can I don't know, give you right now, just to help
Maybe next time we all
to get through this all of kind informative thing. Okay.
But I want to ask you, I end up by doing this self-information thing. I was in Ukraine last hour, and I was going through videos posted by people on YouTube. And it's very
Controversial.
Also very controversial.
Yeah, of course.
You never know if it's like it's very sophisticated propaganda, if it's real. It's very like a real life. It's a fragment of reality, but you never know. So even if you try to get to the source of direct people experience, not journalists nor professional people with information or activists, you get this fresh stuff, but still you don't know. I collect a lot of these things.
There are no clean sources, like there is no like true voice.
Yeah, that was what we are talking about right now. Okay, thanks, friends. And if you have any kind of questions afterwards, we are open to.
Если говорить, я выслушала о том, какие журналы газеты вы читаете, но...
I heard about the magazines you are reading at home and...
Ну, вот как бы тоже про ситуацию с миром, да, это наиболее объективно, если смотреть...
And about the situation as well?
Ну, с YouTube. Да, YouTube.
With YouTube channel?
Ну, в России есть такой момент цензуры. То есть
Russia
у нас
is a moment of censorship.
закрытые сайты, которым, в принципе, можно было бы верить. Это Каспаров.ру, Грани.ру, блог Навального.
We have closed such website to whom we can believe, but they are just now closed. It's like Granny.ru, Kasparov.net, Navalny.ru.
И ряд других тоже источников, которые... Но мы научились жить в таком как бы промежутке или как в пространстве зеркал, то есть через тот браузер заходить, через другие сайты, все это читать и смотреть.
But we used to live in this kind of sensor atmosphere where we find an alternative channels to get information. So you block.
Technically,
No. In the articles I mentioned, it was written how to do this. Вот эти вот статьи не сильно знаю, как это делать. Лиза, я пришлю тебе.
Да ладно,
я вообще закачала себе
Я же не могу Москве, что мне это ломать?
Нет, это все нормально. И также...
едешь, а Facebook запретят,
И это
Я не очень мозговую тему.
Я переведи.
Окей.
И также, помимо тех источников, которые считаются официальными СМИ, есть...
And also because the sources that like an official media.
Есть так называемые гражданские журналисты. Например, один из них Аркадий Бабченко.
There are such journalists which are called civil state journalists. For instance, one of them is Arkady Babchenko.
Да, он ездил на Украину, он писал репортажи, писал достоверно, этому всему можно верить, но как бы о том, как работает наша пропаганда.
He was in Ukraine. He wrote reports about, like articles about Ukraine and hallucinations. We can trust him, though I don't. But
Да, но наша пропаганда тут же сняла фильм.
But international propaganda immediately shoot a film.
12 друзей хунты.
12 friends of Junta.
Да, в котором они просто рассказывают, что это бандеровцы, враги, но на самом деле, конечно, это не так.
Which is proclaimed by Russian journalists as enemies, as I don't know, Commentators.
But actually, this is from Latin America.
Okay.
I was wanted to ask about propaganda in the Russian military.
So we did the impossible. Our discussion was called the possibility of dialogue, but in fact the dialogue happened, so it can exist, and well, let's celebrate. Yesterday the director of Warsaw National Museum told me, well, you're right, but you're so pessimistic, and well, tomorrow night, this morning she's absent, but I think that I provided a lot of optimism by the discussion.